they can't say you didn't really request it officially because you didn't use our form. It's important to note that a lot of times, discrimination we see it's intersection. So like we'll see that situations where like some discrimination that looks like it's about families with kids. Once we do more investigation, it's really more racial, where they're denying to some families with kids but not others, depending on their race. So that's kind of these are the things that we find out when we do investigation. So real quick, so I know we're running short on time here. We're going to go through the tenant's responsibilities through Missouri Landlord Tenant Law. So you have to pay your rent on time. Don't damage the property. Now, this doesn't mean like if there's a hole in the roof or something. There's wear and tear on a building that happens regardless of who the tenant is, right? If you put a hole in the wall, that's on you, right? But if it is something that would have happened no matter who was living in the unit, that's not on you. Don't allow other folks to move in or sublease the apartment without getting the lease modified. In return, if you're doing those things, landlords should provide a habitable property. That does not mean it has to be very nice. It does mean it has to be up to the standards of the municipality or county. They have to make reasonable repairs. So again, if the roof is leaking or something, or if you're in a unit and the pipes in the bathroom above you are leaking, and so your ceiling caves in your bathroom, which happens, quite a lot, again, that's not on you, right? And it's up to the landlord to make those repairs. They have to give you proper notice for rent increases, and they have to take proper steps to evict you for not payment of rent through the court system. So, state of Missouri recognizes two kinds of leases: written or month-to-month / oral leases. So we generally tell people to get a written lease, mainly because if you don't have one, at the end of every month, they can give you 30 days to vacate. So if you're going month to month and you don't have a written lease that is in function, right? Because usually they're a year long and they have the start and beginning date, right? And say that you just go over and you don't sign a new one, right? You have now left that lease, right? You're no longer in the world of that lease. You're now in month to month leases, and in that situation, at the end of any given month, they can say, well, I want to rent this to somebody else, I need you out by the end of the next month.
So what is the proper, like that last slide, it said, if you, it was saying something about proper notice. What is proper notice? Like, what's the time slot, like, for proper notice for, like, if you are, you have to move out or whatever? Do you know, like, is it like a regulated, like, amount of time?
The proper notice had to do with it had to do with rent increases, and generally it can't be like tomorrow, starting tomorrow, your rent is now $50 more than it used to be. It has to be written, it has to be timely. The lease is totally separate from that situation. But we'll keep going. So so when you move in, we recommend that you do a quick tour. You want to make sure everything's working. You want to walk through with the landlord. You want to take pictures of the unit so that you have documentation of the condition when you moved in. When you're there, as part of that walkthrough, you want to get them to, in writing, say that they're going to repair anything that you find not working during this walkthrough. And you want to hold on to all these pictures and things for later, because you're going to do a security deposit one at the end. So in a situation where you have a repair issue, you're going to need to keep a written record of your contact with the landlord. You're going to want to take pictures to provide evidence of the conditions of the things that are happening in the unit. If it is a situation where it endangers your safety, like there's no heat, because the furnace is broken, not because you haven't paid the bill, but because the furnace is broken, you may have to call an inspector. So say you call the inspector comes by and says, yep, this is not going to be up to code, right? And it has been over 2 weeks since you requested the repair man, right? In that situation, if you've been there for 6 months, if your rent is all paid up, if you're not violating the lease in any other way, like I said, if you've given the landlord 14 days to respond and have a note from the inspector saying the repair is necessary, if it is a small one, right, like if it's only gonna cost you $250 to have somebody come over and fix the furnace to get it working, and you've done all of these things and documented all of these things, you're gonna need the receipt from the contractor, you're gonna need a bid from the contractor for the job, you're gonna need the receipt from the contractor showing you paid it, but you can then deduct that amount from your next month's rent. Okay?
For the inconvenience of having to do it on your own.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just you want it done, and they're dragging their feet. So.
Yeah.
So to the point of evictions and stuff. So if you've missed payment, etc., they can't just take your stuff and put you out, right? Not legally. Lots of landlords do. Legally, they cannot do it. There's a process with the court system that you have to go through. So you have to miss your rent. They have to notify you that you have missed rent and demand payment. Right? Once they do that, if you do not pay, they then have to file a case against you. Right? So that after that, you're going to need to be served. Right? You're then going to have your court date. And then after the court date, if you lose your case, 10 days after that, the landlord can file to get an eviction. So this is important. It's not immediate. Right? It takes a while for this process to happen. And the other important thing is that the landlord should not be putting you out even at that point. The sheriff's department is who has the right to evict people from property. Right? If the landlord shows up and not the sheriff before the sheriff's time, they're actually trespassing on you, even if they own the building. Until the sheriff comes and puts you out, you have a legal right to be in there. Right? And so this is important. Like, so if that happens, so again, like I said, there's a process. It's not just me.
Okay, go ahead. That's why I didn't start talking.
I'm just gonna I'm gonna run through the end of this, and then we get to any questions at the end.
What was that said something? I'm sorry. Something said something about 10 days to file a written, I guess, agreement. Well, not agreement, but if you've been illegally within
After
10
the
days
judge.
after the judge. Oh, okay.
Right.
Because
That,
I was going to ask
And
how to proceed after an illegal eviction.
so okay. So let me keep going here, guys. So it's important to know that if you're in a case where you fell behind and it's a rent possession case, so that's what they call it when you're not paying rent, it's rent possession. And you do come up with the money. So say you lost your job, blah blah blah. Before your court date, you got a new job, you got some paycheck, you maybe borrow some money from a family member or whatever, and you can get all caught up. So if you can do that by your court date, you should be able to pay your rent, the filing fee for them having filed the case, and the case should go away. Okay, at that point, if you can do all that with the court, it should be like you didn't miss that payment. And whatever the end of your lease is, you should be able to stay there through the end of that lease.
But they have their choice whether they want to renew it or not, right?
Right, yeah, there's nothing that will force them to renew you in the state of Missouri. So illegal evictions, examples are changing the locks on you, taking your belongings off, shutting off your utilities, trying to freeze people out, removing doors or windows, so the winter will have that as a way of freezing people out. So what happens if you pull up and they are actively taking your stuff out, right? As your landlord's there, you pull up, they're actively taking stuff. You call the cops. Like, they're actually breaking the law at that point, right? So the cops should show up and say, stop. Like, you can't do this. The sheriff has to do this. Like, you need to leave these folks alone and do the proper, protocol on this stuff. But a lot of times, this stuff is planned for when you're at work, etc. So if you come home and you find your stuff, right? In that situation, you should contact Legal Services of Eastern Missouri. They have an illegal lockout clinic where they help people deal with that. So we're coming to the very end. So real quick on security deposits. In the state of Missouri, they cannot be more than 2 months' rent. Okay? Landlord has to return the deposit or provide you a written list of damages within 30 days after you move. So we're going to go through the move out, right? So remember you took all those pictures with the landlord at the beginning. right? And hopefully you held on to them. So when you're moving out, you should be able to go through the unit with the landlord, show them the initial pictures, take pictures of the condition of the apartment now, and say, you're going to have to show me whatever damages you're going to charge me for, right? And you want to do that, you want to walk through with them, because you're going to try and get them to say, like, okay, you're going to get your deposit back, because, everything's pretty much how you got here, right? So you're going to do that same kind of move-out inspections. At the end of it, you're going to turn in your keys to the office. So turning in the keys is sort of like the official, you no longer have possession of the unit thing. You're going to have a receipt if you haven't turned in your keys. Important thing, just keep your apartment clean, because they're going to charge you a bunch for cleaning if you don't. Provide a forwarding address when you get that receipt for turning your keys in. So once you get that receipt for turning your keys, again, they have 30 days to get you your money back. If they do not get you your money back in 30 days, you should send them a written request explaining that, it's been 30 days, here's when you turn in your keys, here's your forwarding address, where is my deposit? If they still do not give you your deposit back, you can take them to small claims court. So, questions, real quick. Again, my name is Glenn. I work for EHOC. If folks know where the White Castle at Bannerman Show is, we are the 7-story tall red brick building across the street from it. There's only one very tall brick building at that sort of corner where all those things come together. We're in the 6th floor of that. I know you guys got to hustle, but real quick, if we have questions.
I just wanted to know about can they add, like, say for instance, not me personally, but can they add their lawyer fees onto and say it's back rent?
So if you lose your case, yes, they can charge you the legal fees.
Okay, say for instance that the person that the company was working with, the state had actually paid their portion of their rent and they paid it in full, but then the apartment complex charged the tenant the court cost for that. Is that normal in the state of Missouri?
You would talk with an attorney on that.
Gotcha.
That's just too specific, because you got the housing authority. Like, there's just a number of things involved there, so
Okay.
you would need to talk to an actual lawyer on that one.
Okay.
So I want to know, what